Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Your home for the Houston Astros this season, this 2024 season, folks. If you're a die-hard Houston Astros fan, if you're a native Houstonian like myself, you're a fan of the Houston Astros, and you're kind of tired of the national media coverage of this team, how toxic and negative, and just looking for any kind of negativity to pounce on to sell these articles and get clicks. If you're kind of sick of that, you're kind of, not too interested in the options that are out for you for the Astros coverage, or if you're just looking for some extra coverage, because that's kind of me. I'm always looking for extra coverage of the Astros. I really didn't like some of the stuff outside of the Brian McTaggart's beat writing. So I was like, hey, why not give it a shot? Why not try to fill that hole and make a podcast and a blog that you would like for yourself as a Houston native and a diehard Houston Astros fan? So that's what this is here at the Space Cadet Sports Podcast and blog. You can find the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com. I'm your host, Paul Salazar Jr. You can find me online at Paul Salazar Jr. Who am I, you might ask? Of course, I am a native Houstonian, but I am obviously a diehard Astros fan as well. But I am an entertainment professional. I'm a comedy writer, a joke writer, just all around silly goose. I went to the University of Houston, got my theater, went to theater school there, I should say, and minored in creative writing. I've been living in Los Angeles for the last decade plus, rolling that boulder up the hill of the entertainment industry and making just enough money to still stay in LA and having just enough free time to still do a podcast and blog. So I'm a very happy, blessed person. I'm very blessed because I'm a Houston Astros fan. Folks, the Houston Astros fans, I'm still learning broadcasting. Thank you for being with me here as I'm learning and taking my lumps. While there might not be a podcast that is exactly for me as a Houston Astros fan, I'm still learning how to podcast when it comes to sports podcasting. So I appreciate people that are here with me during the learning curve, that are giving me some feedback, that are telling me what they like about the show. I appreciate that. If you tell me what you like, we'll try to lean into that more. But yeah, we're getting to the Houston Astros here. They are continuing their winning streak. They are now on a 4-game winning streak, folks. They are 6-4 in their last 10 games. Slowly but surely, this team is turning it around. I am very happy and optimistic right now. It's been a tough month so far, so it's good to have some optimism. The Houston Astros won their game yesterday against the Oakland Athletics, 3-0. It was a close one. It was a tough one. There was a lot of tension towards the end of the game there, but it was a good game all around. We're just going to kind of recap the game from yesterday. We're going to talk today about some Houston Astros trades and some roster moves, some potential roster movement, and my theories and what I think is going to happen with this roster going forward. We're also going to talk about Ronel Blanco. Obviously, yesterday's podcast, yesterday's everything when it came to Houston Astros news pretty much revolved around Ronel Blanco as we were getting developing news around his ejection and suspension. So that's kind of the topics for today's podcast. If we have some time, I do want to kind of hit up some other Houston sports news, but it seems like every podcast I have enough to talk about that. I'm thinking about what else I can talk about towards the end. I want to always get to a little Rockets or a little Texans or even a little Dynamo or one podcast I even got to potential Houston teams coming with the NHL and WNBA and talk to Tillman Fertitta. So while this is still primarily a Houston Astros podcast, I do try to talk to a little bit of the other teams in Houston that we all know and love as Houstonians, or maybe we don't know and love them, but we know them. We're still learning to love them sometimes. So we'll get to that if we have some time for it. If not, we'll maybe get another podcast or another article out on the Substack for you folks. So yeah, just definitely very happy with this outing that Framber Valdez gave for us in this outing, folks. It was a gift for Houston Astros fans. I said in the previous podcast that I was really hoping for Framber to go 8 innings, going 7 innings, and just using one bullpen arm in relief. You got to be happy with that, or at least I have to be happy with that. I'll say, that essentially is still giving me the same result that I was looking for. I wanted Framber to go deep into the game, get confident, show some dominance, get back to the Framber we know and love, and not really tax the bullpen, because it's going to be a tough stretch of 10 games coming up for our bullpen. So when it comes down to the results of it, you got the W. The starting pitcher went deep into the game, and we only had to use one bullpen arm. There is a lot of things to be happy about for this game. So let's kind of get into it. We're looking at Framber Valdez here, folks. He really looked like he was kind of turning it around here. There's been some outings with Framber where he's been visibly frustrated. He's been, just seeming like he's trying to figure it out, trying to fine tune things. Really kind of get back into his groove here. And this game, he looked a lot more confident. He was throwing pitches for varying speeds. He had one changeup in the 80s. He had another changeup that I believe hit 91. So he was able to not only hit his spots where he was trying to throw his pitches, but he was also able to kind of mess with the velocity a little bit, take some off, put a little extra on, and still get the good results that we want from Framber Valdez. Framber Valdez at times, last season with his fastball, trying to get a little bit extra speed on it, he could have a little control issues, or he throws that sinker a little too high, and with that extra velocity, there were some hitters that were able to really get some good barrels on that pitch, and kind of get knock them a lot further and get those either hits to the gap or home runs that Framber is generally good at avoiding. So it's good to see Framber be able to take a little bit off the pitch and get to the spot that he's trying to hit, or at least near the spot he's trying to hit. There's still, the pitchers are human. There's still some pitches that he had in the dirt, or pitches that were just a little off. But Framber generally in this game was looking like he was figuring it out, and honestly, it looked like he was having some fun. There was a point in the game that I believe Todd Callis, TK there on the broadcast, was mentioning that Framber Valdez's smiles per inning were up, and that really was true. Framber seemed like he was having a good time out there. I don't know if it's just his favorite blue jersey, or the fact that the Astros got some run support for him early, so he was able to, not stress so much, and kind of play ahead. But Framber looked like he was in good spirits, and I think if you look at his stat line, you would understand why. Framber went 7 innings. He only gave up 2 hits. Obviously pitched 7 innings of shutout ball. Did not give up a run or an earned run there. He walked 2 batters. He got 8 strikeouts, which I believe is a season high for Framber, and I think he got something like 3 double plays. He's a ground ball pitcher. Even with the 2 walks, he got a couple double plays there. He was able to, really pitch effectively and efficiently in this game. He threw 84 pitches. I'm looking at the wrong stat there. He threw 97 pitches, I should say. 59 of them were for strikes. So that was really good to see. Especially right now, with the Houston starting pitchers going through this tough spell, and now being a man down because of Ronel Blanco's suspension. We saw it coming, but because of that, we desperately need these starters to get right. If they have some struggles in their game, to be able to make the adjustment and to continue to go to play through the game, as opposed to having to be pulled early and needing to rely on a long reliever. So Framber Valdez had a great inning, exactly the way I would have written it up if I was a screenwriter for the Houston Astros. This game, obviously I probably would, I would have wanted the 8 innings, like I said in that other podcast, but I would have gotten some notes back from the producers saying, try to make it a little more realistic. So yeah, realistically, 7 innings with this stat line, 8 strikeouts, only 2 walks is amazing. a lot of Astros pitchers this season have struggled with their walks, giving away free passes, and a lot of times those free passes have made it around the base pads and really kicked our asses. There's really no other way to say it this season. Right now, the Astros are still 18-25. We are climbing, or I should say the team is climbing their way out of the hole that they have dug themselves in. A lot of times I say this, one of my things that I'm still working on here is, as I always call the team, I always address the team as we whenever it's negative. Whenever it's something negative, I'm always like, we need to do this, or we didn't do this. But when it's generally positive, I 99% of the time give the flowers to the Astros, but I'm still working on not including myself on the team. And I know it's not how we should be out there, but it's just so hard. I've followed this team for so long. I feel like when they fail, I fail. So I'll definitely try my best not to take their successes, but from time to time I will take their failures. That's just because I'm insecure. I'm just so self-deprecating. I just need more fodder to make fun of myself for. So it was really good to see this. It was like scripted. I said, it's Framber is now 3-1 on the season, lowering that ERA to 2.95. So those aren't exactly the stats that I always look at when we're looking at pitchers. But it's the stats in the box score. It's the stats that most people look at and how they evaluate pitchers. So that's what I give out. I always like to do a little bit of a deep dive to go through other stats as time goes on. I feel like I've done it a lot this season, and not too many people have responded to it. If you do like those deeper dive stats, like those advanced stats, I definitely could get into some of those on a later date. But just for a quick game recap, we're going to keep rolling along here, folks. Framber Valdez really did have a great game. We need more of it. I think he really didn't get into too much trouble. There was one moment in the I believe in the fourth inning, he kind of just, J.D. Davis, former Astro, kind of hit a blooper, not a blooper, sorry, he hit directly into the ground, a really soft contact infield kind of roller that would have rolled to Alex Bregman. I don't think Bregman would have really had a decent play on the ball. However, it really made me nervous when Framber went all the way to the third baseline to pick up the ball and tried to throw across his body. When he was basically past the third baseline at that point, throwing across his body, trying to get that out because of trying to keep that no-hitter intact. I believe at that time he still had a no-hitter. Really made me nervous, but luckily something that really made me happy to see is Framber thought better of it. He pocketed the ball. He didn't throw it. He kind of kept it in his hand and shook his head. He talked to Bregman, I'm pretty sure Bregman and Framber, Framber was like, I should have let you got that ball. And Bregman was like, yeah, dude, just let me get that one next time. I think there's been games in the past where Framber has had a pretty good outing and he ends up running to his right, barehanding a ball off the field and trying to throw across his body to first, and the ball kind of sails, and that Framber gets himself into a little bit more trouble than he usually is. So it's good to see him in this game pocket the ball, think better of it. I do understand that competitive drive, that desire to keep your no-hitter intact and to keep, to keep men off the base pads. I do understand any pitcher's desire to try to field that ball and make a play on it. But with Framber's history of fielding, and specifically in that instance, it's good to see him pocket it and just play through and work towards that double play instead of putting a man in running scoring position, I should say. Also, it made me nervous because the man on first, not to quote Abbott and Costello here for those of you who are ancient like me, but the man on first was Mauricio Dubon. In this game, as we're moving along to the lineup and the batting order here, Mauricio Dubon got his first start at first base this game, which really goes to show in a game where Joey Loperfido, Trey Cabbage, and Yainer Diaz all started that the team has no interest in fielding those men at first base. I think there was some time last season where I really was hoping that Yainer Diaz would get more time at first base when we had a struggling Jose Abreu and we still had Martin Maldonado. This might be a bit of one of the hottest takes I have on this podcast. Generally, you come to me and I'll have cool takes. I'm a refreshing glass of water that you can douse all over those Houston Astros hot takes and those toxic takes out there. But I know this one kind of goes against the grain. I was a huge Martin Maldonado fan, still am. I'm not so crazy that I'm going to sit here and tell you that the Houston Astros starting pitching has struggled just because of Martin Maldonado. I'm not that insane, but I was a huge proponent for Dusty starting Martin Maldonado last season over Yainer Diaz. I believe that Yainer still, he didn't have the rapport with the pitchers and was still learning game calling and the whole Astros way of doing things. I do think that he could have potentially had more playing time than he did that last season. But, it's last season's neither here nor there, so we're just going to keep moving forward. The whole reason I bring this up is because I thought Yainer Diaz could maybe get more play at first, and Bly Madris and Mauricio Dubon got more play at first than Yainer. I think realistically it's time to kind of bury the idea that Yainer could play some first base for the Houston Astros, at least this season. At least right now, they have no intention of that. The same thing, I think, with Joey Loperfido. I think, when Joey Loperfido was brought up, the news of Jose Abreu going down to the minors had not been announced. So I thought Joey Loperfido was being brought up because they were trying to teach the man first base. And the whole reason that he was still in the minors was because he still wasn't able to field first base the way the Astros felt, or at least the Astros, in a fashion that the Astros felt confident would be at a major league level, and not lose us too many runs or get too many extra men on the base pad due to some catching errors or some first base fielding errors. It can be a complicated position. I had a bar manager here out in LA that one time broke his collarbone during a softball game because somebody was fielding first and just didn't have the right positioning. They were standing awkwardly and unintentionally tripped this man, and he went head over heels and broke his collarbone. So first base is a tricky position. I would say, it's definitely, if you're not used to it, you probably don't want to be there because things happen so quickly and you have to react, and you kind of want to know your positioning better than anything else when you are fielding first, especially if you're a right-handed player and not a left-handed player. So, Joey Loperfido, while I thought he might be called up to actually be the Houston Astros first baseman, John Singleton has been the Houston Astros first baseman since Abreu has been down to the minors to work on his swing. We are hopeful that Abreu will come back, but right now, just to reiterate, there is no timetable for Abreu to be back, which is probably, I wouldn't say it's a red flag, but it's definitely an orange flag. We're hoping Abreu gets better. We could use him. We have him on the books, so we want to get productivity out of him. So we're hoping that he is able to find that swing. And also, Trey Cabbage started left field. Trey Cabbage was a minor leaguer that was brought up shortly. Actually, I believe he was brought up during the Rockies series when we brought up we were allowed an extra man on the roster, a 27th man on the roster, but it had to be a hitter, not a pitcher, because Major League Baseball hates pitchers and wants their arms to fall off because the Major League Baseball wants more offense. So we got Trey Cabbage on the squad for the Mexico City series, and he's been part of the team pretty much since. I think he got sent back down for a day and then brought back up. But, Trey Cabbage has been here. He plays outfield and first base, but he has not played first base at a major league level. So I don't know if the Astros have any intention of that, if Mauricio Dubon is just frankly the better fielder, so they're not going to use him at first. But it does look, at least for now, that Mauricio Dubon will be the backup first baseman, and it just kind of made me nervous. Mauricio Dubon, I definitely think that smaller framed guys as catchers and first basemen. Sometimes, it's the old school thought that you want a bigger target, which, I'm not saying that smaller frame people cannot play first and catcher. I just say that a lot of people go for the bigger guys there. Bigger targets is kind of the old school way of thinking of it. But, it's just, even though I do believe in analytics and anybody could field any position, you do like the idea of somebody with a longer stretch, to be able to play first, somebody with longer arms, somebody with just generally a bigger target and can stay in the position and get a bigger stretch off the bag. But Dubon did field a good first base. But, I was nervous, Dubon being in there, and with Framber being in there. Framber is a notorious ground ball pitcher. There's going to be lots of double plays, so I knew Dubon was in for a long game at first, to have a lot of balls being thrown his way. Even in one inning, I believe it was a fourth inning. I do not recall now. I want to say it was a fourth inning. But a ball was hit directly to Jose Altuve, who was really close to second base and could have stepped on the bag. And instead of stepping on the bag, he kind of took a step and threw it to Mauricio Dubon, and Dubon just kind of chuckled and shook his head, just keeping me honest, making sure I'm ready for it at all times. Thanks, Tuve. So, with that being said, I think we're going to have a lot more Singleton. We're going to have a little bit of Dubon going forward at first base. But I kind of love that. I do think Dubon has had a decent season. He does well with a lot of playing time. He hasn't had as much playing time this season because last year he was Jose Altuve's backup. When Altuve was injured during the beginning of the season due to the injury in the World Baseball Classic, Dubon got a lot of play and was able to have a career season. So Dubon does look good. We do want to make sure we are feeding him at bats, and with all of the mouths to feed in the outfield, it's good to see him get a lot more play in the infield and not just in the middle. He's working both the corners now too. So that was really good to see. But besides the lineup, we another really quick lineup note is Bregman was back to batting fourth, and Pena was knocked back down to fifth. I do not know if this will continue going forward. I do know that Espada is trying to work him back to that cleanup spot, but I do know Pena is making a pretty good case to keep him there too. So if we're just looking at that, we kind of just real quickly for the rest of the lineup after we had Pena, it was traditional. At the top, we had Altuve, Tucker, Jordan as the DH, Bregman, Pena, Diaz at catcher, Loperfido in center, Dubon, and Cabbage batting in the 9-hole at left field. Pena had a pretty good game. He was 2 for 4. He only had one strikeout and he had a run, whereas Bregman had one strikeout. And he was 0 for 3. He did get an RBI, but yeah, just when you see that kind of mixed results still from Bregman, we still want to get him going. I'm not saying knock him down for one bad game. I'm just saying he still has been a little hot and cold this season. We're hoping for more consistency from Bregman with his return to his swing, where he if you go online, he actually supposedly, somebody was asking him about his swing, and he pulled over and showed him his swing, showed him that the knob was where he's placing the knob of the bat now, as opposed to the barrel of the bat in his swing, and he's going back to another swing that he had previously, and kind of abandoning some of the little changes that he's done this season, and it looks like it has had some good effect. We're hoping that this is his swing, and it just was a tough game for the Astros. Overall, in this game, the lineup did muster 8 hits. Obviously, only scored 3 runs. They only worked 1 walk from Aaron Brooks, the Oakland A's pitcher, not the Houston Rockets point guard in the red tux. They did give up 5 strikeouts. But comparatively speaking to the other games, we're happy to see just 5 strikeouts here. The team was 0 for 3, and with runners in scoring position in this winning effort, and left 5 men on base. So while there was good offense and good enough offense to win the game, it was not the best with runners in scoring position. The Houston Astros scored early in this game. They were able to score 2 runs off of some just kind of tough fielding and bad fielding by the Oakland A's. Tucker hit a ball pretty sharply to right field while Altuve was on first. Altuve was able to leg it out to third, but the right fielder, kind of got the ball in quick to second. Tucker kind of saw something. I'm glad he broke for it. There's been a lot of aggressive base running this season for the Astros. Tucker took the aggression, was trying to steal second from the A's with some lackadaisical throwing, and he got away with it. The right fielder had a decent throw. He threw into second from the camera angles that I was able to see, which were very limited. They did look a little like they could be online, but the second baseman kind of stepped up and cut off the throw and then fired it into second base, and the Astros were able to get Tucker. The A's weren't able to get Tucker there, so the Astros got Tucker safely to second base, and the ball kind of popped out of the covering shortstop's mitt, and Altuve was able to run home safely, kind of trot home, I should say, because of the kind of bang play there. It was really good to see. We'll take it. The Astros have always kind of been that team that has made other teams pay for their mistakes, and this season they've been the bizarro Astros. Every little mistake that they have made, they have paid for deeply this season, and they have not been able to find a way to make the other teams pay for their mistakes. So it's good to see this on just a simple throw there. Then later on in the inning there, we had another another little throwing error there. Sorry, 1 second. My phone just went black. But yeah, so Alex Bregman, essentially, that's how he got that RBI in the first inning. He hit a sacrifice fly to right field to Tyler Nevin. By this point, I guess just to kind of recap there, Yordan Alvarez flied out, got Tucker to third. So Tucker was on third base when Bregman flied out to Tyler Nevin out in right field. But Tyler Nevin kind of just had a brain fart. He started running it in, thinking that the Astros were at 3 outs, like he was jogging to the dugout, took a couple steps, realized that Kyle Tucker was tagging, and threw the ball in. But unfortunately for the A's, and fortunately for the Astros, that throw was not in time because he kind of was a little too lackadaisical about it there. The third run came through in the game due to a Mauricio Dubon sacrifice fly. It looked, there was a couple big hits to the warning track in this game, but I was really hoping that Dubon would get that home run. It would be really nice. You look for power from your corner infielders, and when Dubon's playing that corner, we need some slugging from him. We almost had it, but he did get that RBI. So look at that, slugging Dubon, slugging Doobie, playing first base, providing that power for us. We do appreciate it. You love to see it. And also, you love to see John Singleton get a day off. He's definitely done really well with the playing time that he's had this season, but he's kind of cooled off a bit in the last couple games. It's nice to kind of just kind of reset him, get him back, into the game, kind of refreshed, ready to play. He's definitely a very capable batter. He's been a very patient batter. He has been aggressive on pitches he's needed to be aggressive on, but we're hoping that we can get him going again, get John Homerton back on the Astros. So yeah, this, we're looking at everybody else's stats. They're besides Pena, it was kind of a pedestrian night for everybody else. Altuve went 1 for 4 with a run. Tucker was 1 for 3. He did get a run, obviously. I mentioned that. He did work a walk. Alvarez was 1 for 4. We mentioned that Bregman struggled. Diaz was able to hit 1 for 3. Loperfido had a tougher game. If you're kind of looking at somebody that had the toughest game there, I think he went 1 for 3, but he did have 2 strikeouts. He's looking good. Where Loperfido is hitting 23 on the season with a 719 OPS. You know, I was expecting these strikeouts. You know, the whole reason that I was saying we can wait for Loperfido is, you know, in April we are really looking for some power, but at the same time, Loperfido is a high strikeout guy. I was like, I'm not sure if we need more strikeouts in this lineup. And you know, as long as the team is keeping its strikeouts low, like we had a five strikeout game this game, you know, we can afford for Loperfido to have a couple strikeouts and have a couple hits, you know. But we really, this team does better with patient hitting and low strikeouts. You know, Tucker, who has really been the MVP for us this season, is the example of that. I believe he, if I'm not mistaken, and this might have changed during the game and I just lost track of it, he has something like 32 walks and only 31 strikeouts. So it's good to see, you know, those numbers, because that's what we want. The Astros are the best in the league when it comes to not striking out. So we need more of that. Believe it or not, you know, this offense is a pretty good offense. Even after a game like this where they kind of still struggled, still had their moments, there's still a good offense. They're still hoping that they can turn it around and get better hits with runners in scoring position. But it's a nice reminder that this team is still going out there and getting it. The Astros really struggled against Aaron Brooks in this game. Aaron Brooks was out there and really, you know, he was able to go 7 innings. He got 7 hits against him, gave up 3 runs, 3 of them were earned. He only allowed 1 walk, and he got all 5 of the strikeouts for the team. So, you know, shout out to Aaron Brooks. He really did pitch a really good game. The guy hadn't started a game since 2019. Or that might be wrong. I know he started games in 2019, but I can say for sure, I should say, that he last major league game pitched was in 2022 with the St. Louis Cardinals. You know, he definitely was out of the game for a while. He's back. He's pitching the minors. Loperfido and Cabbage had seen him because they played some in the minors this season, but everyone else, you know, hadn't seen him in a while. He was pretty effective. He had a good game. Poor Brooks was out there sweat. He was so red-faced, just sweat dripping off of this man, you know. So it's like, it's a really sweaty environment there in Minute Maid Park, and very humid. And if you're somebody like Ronel Blanco, you're going to be sweating a lot. Aaron Brooks was out there sweating a lot. He was so red-faced. He looked like a Republican, you know, politician getting all upset about wokeness and TikTok. He was so red-faced. I really was worried about him, but he had a good game, Aaron Brooks. I tip my hat to him, but really happy that the Astros were able to muster up just enough offense to win this game. But just to go back to Astros pitching, how they closed out the game. After the 7th inning, Joe Espada went with Seth, the Magic Man Martinez. Magic Man Martinez went in there in the 8th inning and had a good inning. And you know, the time came around for the 9th. The Astros were only up 3-0. Pater went up in the bullpen. Not really aggressively, kind of tossed around the ball for a little bit, walked around, you know, in the bottom of the 9th. You're like wondering if Hader was going to come in, you know, for like the 75th game in a row. But luckily the Astros didn't need him. Joe Espada went with Martinez to go out there in the 9th. Martinez got into a little bit of trouble. He walked 2 batters. So in the 9th inning, it got a little tense. You know, all the smiles from Framber. Well, actually, they cut away to Framber. Framber looked like he was having a good time, I believe, talking to his fellow pitching rotation members in the dugout. He didn't seem too stressed, but obviously he was still watching the game. That's how I feel like my panic meter has been this season. It's like I'm still having a good time. I'm still enjoying the game, but I'm still watching so intently because it's like, oh, come on, we need this win. Seth Martinez, the Magic Man, was able to pitch out of trouble. This time, he inherited his own runners. Usually he does well with inherited runners. This time, he was the guy to put the runners on the bags, but he still was able to get out of the situation. He pitched 2 innings, gave up 2 walks, and got 1 strikeout. Seth Martinez really doesn't look like the big strikeout guy, so this was a non-traditional save opportunity, and non-traditional pitcher to be out there for a save, but Seth Martinez was able to get the first save of this season for him and his second save of his career. So shout out to the Magic Man, working some extra magic for us. We needed it. We appreciate it. This saved us some bullpen, throwing another arm out there. I don't even know who we would have wanted to go out there. Maybe Dubin would have went out there if they didn't want to go with Hader. I definitely don't think it would have been Presley. I don't think it would have been I don't even know. I'm glad I don't have to speculate too much on it, because I really was worried after Martinez got a couple batters on the bases as to what manager Joe Espada would do if Seth Martinez was not able to get out of the situation or blew the save. But Seth was nails. Seth worked his magic, and the Astros were able to win 3-0. You love to see it. So going forward for today's game, the Thursday game, we do have Christian Javier pitching for the Houston Astros. We're hoping for a bounce-back game from him. His last game, he definitely struggled to stay within the zone. He was not hitting his spots. We're hoping that whatever that was, he made the adjustment. Maybe he just wasn't ready. Maybe he just wasn't sharp enough because he wasn't quite ready to be there. Hopefully he's ready today. Hopefully he's sharp and he's able to do that Javier magic. Just be El Reptil, be stoic and out there and just working these A's. The A's have Joey Estes on the mound. Once again, I do apologize if that is a mispronunciation. I do listen to the broadcast. I watch every game. I do go to Baseball Reference to look up these pronunciations. I just am a mush mouth and I have bad pronunciation. So once again, to all the players out there that I ever may mispronounce your name, I will get better with time. It's not a lack of respect thing. It's just a thing that I'm bad at. Even in college, when I was in my dialects and voice class, I had the best dialects teacher. Shout out Jim Johnson. He's retired now. Hope you're enjoying your retirement, my friend. Sorry that I was your worst student. It was very apparent that other actors were really good at dialects and enunciation and stuff like that, and for whatever reason it just always fell out of my head. I just have a bad ear. It's never been good for me. Even in comedy, people are always looking for you to do impressions. I'm the worst impressionist. I know it. I try to stay away from them. I just don't have a good ear. So sorry to Joey if I am mispronouncing. I'm not trying to be a jerk. Sorry to my listeners that have to deal with my bad pronunciation. I will hope to grow and learn with that as time goes. Houston has never played. None of the hitters on this roster have played against this pitcher, so this will be new to us. He doesn't have that many starts for his young career, but his numbers have looked decent. It looks like this could be a decent pitcher. So what we need to do is kind of, what we did to this young pitcher last game, or what the Astros did with that young pitcher last game. Even if they're struggling to find string some hits together just to really work the pitcher, not strike out, try to get some walks. Even if they're not getting walks, try to get them in the long counts, and whatever offense you can muster, just ride that until the later innings. And hopefully in the later innings they'll be able to get to the bullpen that might be a little exhausted for the A's, and put the hurt on them. So we're looking forward to this game today. I did project the Astros win 3 out of 4 of these games, but I was hoping for a sweep. So while the projection might be a little, I might have already got the projection right, we are hoping for the sweep here. I would be happy to bust out the brooms today, folks. But let's move on real quickly to the next part of this podcast. We're going to talk about some roster moves here. I did put on the blog, kind of pour one out for the homies. We're having to say goodbye to Brandon Bielak, relief pitcher and starting pitcher, right-handed pitcher, Brandon Belak. Sometimes it be like that. We really are going to miss Brandon Belak. He was a good guy. He put up some great contributions for the Houston Astros over these past seasons. He just hadn't been able to break into this rotation because we've always had good starting pitching. And this season, when we finally started, when we started to struggle with starting pitching, we had enough prospects and enough people coming up the pipeline that Brandon Belak was mostly used as the mop-up guy, and it didn't seem like he was going to be able to sniff the rotation this season. And with the expectation of Christian Javier coming back, the Astros decided to DFA him, and especially with Urquidy potentially coming back towards the end of the month or beginning of June, whenever it may be. The Astros were looking ahead and saying that maybe Brandon Belak is not going to be part of the future plans for this team. So the Astros DFA'd him, and they did trade him to the Oakland A's for cash considerations. So Brandon Belak is now, from playing with the Astros, getting DFA'd, having to sit out this trip to Minute Maid Park. I guess he could potentially come back today if he's already on the roster. The Oakland A's did make corresponding roster moves to make room for him on the 40-man. I do not know if they have him on the Major League squad right now, but it would be tough to see Brandon Belak coming out of the bullpen in this game. It's kind of the Wesley Snipes meme. We'd have to put the heart on Belak would be a weird turn of events here. But shout out to Belak. We hope you find success there in Oakland. It'd be nice if we don't have to see you too much if you're having success in Oakland, Brandon. But, I do think that he can crack the starting rotation of another team, and I hope that he finds success. The other Astros move was DFAing outfielder Corey Julks. Corey Julks, Houston area native, University of Houston alum, just one of those Houston hustlers and a fan favorite just because of his Houston connections and his time with the club last season. Corey Julks was traded to the he was traded to the Chicago White Sox for a relief pitcher. Corey Julks, while we're all a fan, right-handed pitcher Luis Rodriguez, who will be in the minor league system for the Houston Astros. But Corey Julks, we are going to miss him. I mentioned previously that the Astros have a huge logjam right now in outfield. It's kind of going to be tough for manager Joe Espada to feed all these mouths in the outfield. You have obviously the mainstays of Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez, who will sometimes play left field. Then you have Jake Myers, who was announced to be the starting center fielder for the Houston Astros. Then you have left fielder and outfielder Chas McCormick, who at the beginning of the season was actually ranked pretty high in the Major League in Major League Baseball for being a left fielder. He's been spending time with the minor leagues, rehabbing, getting better, and he is expected to be back soon. And while he has gotten a lot of playing time over Jake Myers, he obviously has been injured and not been playing too much recently, and he's had a bit of a lack of slugging on this season. Then we have Mauricio Dubon, amazing utility guy, a guy that should be playing, maybe 5 out of the 7 games a week, or 4 out of 6, depending on how many games the Astros are playing. This guy should be getting consistent playing time. You have Dubon, Mauricio Dubon, Justin Verlander's personal center fielder. He should be getting playing time in the outfield. Then you have prospect Joey Loperfido. Joey Loperfido is inevitable. It looks like he is going to be a major league player. It looks like he has the tools. But he's still very much learning how to work these at bats and to lessen his strikeout percentage. And then of course you have Trey Cabbage. If that's just not enough, we have outfielder, first baseman Trey Cabbage, who looks like he might not be playing too much first base and just going to be playing corner outfield. We have the Cabbage Man there, and someone who has not sniffed the major league rosters yet season, but had a good spring and is having a great season in AAA, is outfielder Pedro Leon. Pedro Leon looks like he could be ready. So the outfield, for the path to success for Corey Julks to make it back to the outfield rotation this season looked like it was going to be a long path, and it would probably have to depend on some injuries. So the Astros decided to DFA him and graciously trade him away to a team that might need him. So now we have three Astros at least on the Chicago White Sox. We have Martin Maldonado over there. We have Corey Julks over there, and it's Corey Julks. And we have Corey Lee. Sorry, I was like, what? I meant to say Corey Lee, but I said Corey Julks, but it worked out anyway for me. In my head, I was saying Corey with a K. I was like, oh no, they know I'm wrong. But you didn't know any better. They're both named Corey. But yeah, we have those guys over there in the White Sox now. We are pouring one out for Corey, wishing him the best. Hope those guys over there have a decent season. It's very interesting to me. Fan-sided basically were saying that they had this article come out like, are these minor Astros trades indicative that the Astros will be sellers at the deadline? It looks like the Astros are going to sell Alex Bregman. Astros to sell off Justin Verlander. Which 5 teams could Bregman land on? It's so funny. Like, they always hate the Astros. They always think they're bums until they could potentially be on their team. And then everybody is so excited to talk themselves into Alex Bregman. Oh, my goodness. It would be so funny if Jose Altuve didn't re-sign that Astros forever contract, and New York Yankees would be like, I don't know, maybe Altuve would be a good fit. People would talk themselves into Altuve so quick. But I don't think Astros fans need to panic. I do not think that this is indicative of the Astros being sellers. I think this is the Astros doing right by some of their players that they needed to move off of the 40-man. Getting some cash, getting another minor league arm, moving these players, letting them have a career somewhere else, and getting something in return for it isn't a seller's mentality. That's just good GMing. I think Dana Brown, even if nothing comes from these moves, these guys were most likely not going to contribute this season going forward. And we wish them success, but I'm not trying to be cruel to them or to their playing time or what kind of player they are. It's just there wasn't much room for them on the roster going forward. So this is just the Astros making some moves, cleaning, kind of organizing the house a little bit. I don't think this is any kind of indicator that the Astros will be selling anybody at the trade deadline. I think it would be a long road for the Astros to be sellers at the trade deadline. I don't think they'd sell. I don't think they'd trade off Bregman. That's just not what the team has done. It's not how they've been speaking. I don't think that is going to be the case. I think, I don't have much money to bet, but I bet that Bregman is not traded from the Astros this season. I think this is all silly. I don't see it. I bet. You know what? If Bregman gets traded, I'll come on the podcast and I'll sing a song about it. I'll do a parody song. I'll write a parody song. I'll do a whole song about it, about how I was wrong. But I don't think that is going to happen, folks. So let's move on to another roster type discussion, and that is about Ronel Blanco. Fan-sided also. Oh my goodness, I don't know. Fan-sided is so terrible. I try to watch all the games, folks. Well, I do watch all the games. I watch all the games. I watch every pitch, even if I don't watch it live. I go back and watch the entire game. I try to read as many articles about the Houston Astros as I can. It's kind of sickening to me right now. I used to, like I said, I started this podcast and this blog because I kind of was sick of all the Houston Astros takes out there. But almost in like a monkey's paw situation, me starting this blog and podcast has meant that I have to read almost everything so that I can get everybody's takes, know what's being said out there. And I just have to say, fan-sided is just absolute garbage. It's bananas how bad it is. It's sad that these real people are writing worse articles and headlines than AI. But it's some garbage takes. It doesn't make any sense. But they did write an article about Ronel Blanco admitting defeat by not appealing his suspension, basically. So yeah, I did say in the last podcast, I think that Ronel Blanco will be suspended just because there's no oversight for the Major League Baseball. They're not good at apologizing. They never walk anything back. Once again, they didn't tell us exactly what the substance was. They're just trying to save face. Something I saw on Reddit even people on Reddit are on the Astros side, which is wild because people on Reddit are just generally hateful, disgusting people that can't wait to hate on others. But even the haters on Reddit and from the R Baseball sub and everything are like, oh yeah, this is ridiculous. This seems how is this use of rosin make any sense? I know somebody said it's like if there was still a speed limit on the highway. If there was still a speed limit on the highway, but they didn't tell you what the speed limit was, they just just don't speed, but the speed, you could get pulled over at any point because the police officer could just determine that you were speeding. So you just were speeding and you don't know why. It's just up to that guy on the day. And yeah, it just seems absolutely absurd. Like the quote was, "This was the stickiest stuff I ever felt in my career," or whatever that was. That I made fun of it in the last podcast. But somebody was saying that that's the umpire's version of the cops "I feared for my life." I thought he had a gun. They're just trying to save face. They're trying to make it seem worse than it is so they don't look foolish in the press. Sadly, Ronel Blanco was suspended for 10 days and he was fined an undisclosed amount because they don't want us to even know that. This league is ridiculous, folks. It really is. But GM Dana Brown and manager Joe Espada essentially said to the press that Ronel Blanco wouldn't be appealing his suspension and would begin serving it immediately. And I think this is just a thing because I feel like the Astros organization was trying to get answers from Major League Baseball, and they realized they were not going to get answers from the league, and they were just going to get penalized for it. So why drag this process out? Why make this news story any bigger than it has to be when reasonable fans are already, on the side of the player? They might not be on the side of the Astros, but they're on the side of the player, not getting penalized ridiculously by the league for something that seems just not very clear, and that they can just kind of eject people just sometimes, and other times just have people change gloves or whatnot. That we need more consistency. We need more oversight from the umpires. We need more clarity from how they do things. They said they went and sent it off in a lab. We don't know if they sent it off. They didn't give us any results. They've never told us what the lab is. Is the lab just a dog? It's a Labrador that smells if it smells like sticky stuff. Is it actually science? They put it in a test tube, check the viscosity, check the chemical balance of how what chemicals are in there, or do they just throw it in a plastic Target bag and put it in the dumpster? We really don't know. They don't tell us this stuff, so it's hard to believe them, hard to take them seriously. As a league, they can be absolutely ridiculous. So that being said, I think the Astros were just like, let's not rock the boat. Let's not appeal this. We're going to be without a pitcher in a roster spot for some time during this season because of the suspension. Might as well just get it over with now and serve the suspension and get back to baseball. I think it's the right move. I don't think it's defeatist. I think it's realistic. Why go out there and kind of fight this when you're going to lose, and when that all that's going to happen is more people are going to talk about the narrative of the Astros being cheaters? It's not a good look. I think the Astros organization is just trying to move forward and win some baseball games and not get distracted by easy distractions. So Ronel Blanco started his suspension yesterday. The Houston Astros are not able to put another man on the roster because of the suspension. He's paying an undisclosed amount. Ronel Blanco doesn't get paid very much, so I'm hoping it isn't too much if the Astros are footing the bill for that. And when it comes to the rosin and sweat mixture, I just don't get it. Ronel Blanco did say that he basically rosins up his left arm because of how sweaty he gets. He didn't know that you're not supposed to do that. He won't be doing that going forward. So hopefully, this will just be a thing that's put in the past. There has been no stories yet about what exactly the substance was. So we're going with it being rosin and sweat. I don't think it was giving him a competitive advantage. I don't think that, I don't understand the rule that you can't have a mixture of rosin and sweat on your non-pitching hand. I don't know what competitive advantage that gives you to pitching when it's on your non-pitching hand. But it's just silly to me. And I'm not trying to be naive. I just don't think it just doesn't make sense. I said yesterday, I'll say it again. If you're having a career year and they check your hands and gloves between every inning, it would be insanely foolish to just decide to start cheating in the middle of a game in Oakland in the fourth inning when you're having a career year and you're trying to work towards a long-term contract to be a baseball player when you're 30 years old. You're not going to be wasting time with foolishness. You're trying to make that money and prove your dominance. You're not trying to get a competitive advantage when they're checking your hands and gloves between innings. That's dumb. I just don't get it, folks. But that being said, we are hopeful that the Astros starting pitchers can go deep into these games and that Joe Espada does not have to rely on too many relievers. We are looking. We do have Sean Dubin in there as a long reliever now that Brandon Bielak's gone, but it's a tough time to be gone without your long reliever that you've depended on this season when you're going to need some long relief for the next 9 days or so here. So we're hoping the Astros starting pitching is consistent, can get to those quality starts. We need quality starts. We need them to get to the sixth inning. We need them to have less than 3 runs. We need this offense to step back up. It wasn't that tragic of a game yesterday, but it was not what we needed in terms of consistent offensive production. It was just what we needed to win the game. So we're calling on the Astros to have a better offensive game today and to keep the ball rolling. Folks, with that, we're going to go ahead and close up the podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. This has been the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. If you be so kind, please go to the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com. Be a subscriber. Get every meme, get every article, every game preview, every game recap, every podcast and video podcast on the blog. There is a subscription model, but that's just if you want to be nice. For the most part, everything on there is going to be free, so don't worry about having to pay a pretty penny. It's just that this is a passion project, and if anybody is ever so kind to donate money to help support it, help get me equipment, help get Carla the dog some treats, we definitely appreciate it, folks. But being a subscriber is free. Go check out the Substack. You could also find Space Cadet Sports on social media at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram and TikTok. We are still growing that. This is very much time consuming. I try to get some memes out there, but the Substack is a place for everything. If you want to find me specifically, you can find me at Paul Salazar Jr. on all social media. If you're just looking for cute pictures of Carla, you can find her at good.dog.carla on Instagram. Thank you, folks, for listening to this podcast. The Astros are on a winning streak. The Astros are working their way up the standings, and folks, there are some wonky things going on. We know this Ronel Blanco suspension isn't what we want, but let's free Ronel Blanco. Let's set a date where we're all going to walk out of work. We're all going to walk out of school to support Ronel Blanco. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. I mean, we can't do it on the weekend. That wouldn't be fair. All right, so let's just say tomorrow we're all walking out at noon Central Time to free Ronel Blanco. Join me in the protest, folks. We really have to get out in these streets and get our voices heard nowadays, folks. Join me in this protest to free Ronel Blanco. Thanks for listening, and as always, vamos Astros.